Hello, I'm Robin and welcome to the October edition of Molten Music Monthly. Oh, here we are again. Here we are again, lovely people. It's good to have you back. Here we are crunching some more news that we've managed to pull out of the vibe that is October. Quite a big fan of October myself. I like a little bit of rummaging through leaves, kicking through the puddles and hoping that my heating still works. But I've managed to get myself super crazy busy these days. I'm running two things now. I've got Synth East, I've got Synth Picnic. I mean, what on earth is going on? Alongside all the normal stuff I've got to do and the making a living, which seems to be all falling apart at the moment. Anybody got any work out there? That would be great. But hey, it's all good fun, and I certainly adore this whole industry and this mess that I'm in. It's still somehow thrilling at the same time as being thrilling. So, well, let's get on with it. Enough of the claptrap. Let's just get on with it. So first off, Synth East. Now, Synth East is my yearly festival of synthesizers in Norwich, and tickets are now available for Synth East 2026. Taking us a little bit longer to get to this point, but we had some serious negotiations to do in order to secure our headliner for Saturday night, which is terribly exciting. We have Cabaret Voltaire. Now, at the time of filming, there are still tickets available for the Saturday night, but they have been selling much faster than anything else we've ever done so far. So don't delay if you fancy coming along to the big Saturday night. Cabaret Voltaire, supported by Scanner and yours truly, Molten Modular. Just fiddling around for a little bit before Scanner does a proper set, and then we move into Cabaret Voltaire. It's a very exciting time. During the day, on the Saturday, we've got lots of manufacturers are turning up. If you're a manufacturer out there who would like to get a table at this fantastic little show, then just give me a shout. We are almost full, and I'll be posting details about who's coming along very soon. In fact, the website is desperately out of date because I haven't had time to update it. But I will throw up a load of information about all the artists who are playing, all the people who are bringing stuff to show, and what the DIY workshops will be, which is the last little bit I've still got to kind of sort out. But we'll get there. It's a very exciting time. It's from the 20th to the 21st of February 2026. All at the Norwich Art Centre, supported by myself, the Art Centre and Electronic Sound Magazine. It's a great thing. Go and check out syntheast.com for all of the details and the tickets and my trailer for what's coming up. And I'm sure you'll agree it's a wonderful time. Now, if you're here for Synth Picnic, I'm going to talk about that at the end. Right, just as I was editing down last month's Molten Monthly, there was the release, or at least the leak, of the TR-1000. Now, this is Roland's newest drum machine. It's quite a thing. It seems as if finally, after like 40 years, Roland are finally listening to what people might actually want. I mean, while we love all of the Roland stuff, all the digital stuff, the software stuff, the interesting explorations they do, the performance controllers, the TR-8S, other bits and pieces, the Iris stuff, the little stuff, you know, it's not as if they're doing anything particularly wrong. It's just that we would really like them just to cast an eye back across their legacy and bring some of that awesomeness into the reality of hardware in a proper hardware way. Not just a software running on hardware way, but in a hardware analog way. Well, finally, they have. And this is what we have. It's a whacking great big drum machine, sort of groovebox. It was a sampler even, and it has tons of their software and digital stuff inside, but it also has circuits from the TR-808 and 909. Those original analog / hybrid drum machines from way back when, because those sounds are still great. I've got 808 kick drum and snare, you know, versions of little analog ones as 1U modules in my rack here, and they're brilliant. They're just great. You can't beat them. Well, you can, I'm sure, in some ways, but they really do me good. They just sound fantastic. So anyway, within the TR-1000 you have these circuits built in, and they're of course not exactly the same as the original ones because there's stuff that no longer exists, but these are based on the original designs that have been enhanced and pulled further in order to give you a wider range of sound and possibilities. And also what's interesting is that they also include their software, their ACB version, their analog circuit behavior versions of the 808 and 909, which they then pull apart through the power of software to give you a complete drum synthesis, because the analog circuits don't actually give you a whole lot. You've got a bit of change between sort of a to a doing, that's about it really, in sort of tonally wise. And so within the software they've been able to develop it further to give you much better sound design options. They of course have loads of other instruments inside, all sorts of drum kits from all sorts of places, samples you can record directly in. You can splice and slice and loop and layer all these things up so you can have all sorts of different things going on the single tracks. You've got fader slider things for levels, you've got tone controls and bits and pieces, you've got an analog filter and overdrive, and you've got a whole bunch of DSP effects as well. I mean, it's a monster, it's extraordinary, it's packed full of Roland's level of professionalism and performance, tools, and just the rigid ruggedness of that hardware and all the outputs and inputs on the back. Fantastic, what a great piece of work. The only thing I would say is that it lacks any of their style, visually, aesthetically. I mean, we've become quite accustomed to the colours that Roland have used throughout the years. The way that they've built an entire clothing brand on the TR-808, for instance, and those sorts of interesting vintage colours that flow through lines and bits and pieces. This looks, it looks like an electron box, I have to say. It's kind of grey and uninteresting, which I'm really surprised by. I mean, I think Roland have been hinting at this with a couple of previous, was it the SH4D or something they had recently, which was similarly unadorned by flair and design. And perhaps this is a reaction to the horrible green they used in all the Ira synths a few years ago. Everybody went, oh, that's quite horrible. So perhaps they've just gone for a minimalist look in order to prevent that kind of criticism. But I would say that's a shame, Roland. You have flair. You have an extraordinary way of guiding culture and expression, and you should certainly use that. Now, Spectrasonics are not exactly prolific. It's been a whole 10 years since Omnisphere number 2 came along, and here we are, Omnisphere 3. Does it look any different? No, not really. What is a little bit? Is it a little bit shinier? I mean, this is software we're talking about. Do you really need to redesign an interface every time? No, maybe not. But you're kind of wanting more from an entire new version. And what it does seem to give you is just a whole bunch of new sounds. Okay, that's great. So a whole bunch of new library, a bunch of new presets. It must give us something else. Surely there must be more to it. Well, yes, you do have this global control page now, so you can sort of control an entire patch with these macro controls over sort of filter and envelope and that kind of thing. So you can treat the thing as an entire instrument without having to dig down into each individual part of that instrument. So that's helpful. There's something like 36 new filter types. I mean, I'm a fan of having 1 or 2 filters around, but 36, no, that's great. Yes, just keep bringing them on. They've introduced some vintage emulation, which is nice, so it starts to fall apart and crap out at various times. They've added in a whole bunch of new wavetables. There's now multi-layered sort of quad zone modulation, something or others, and perhaps more importantly, it has MkIII support, which for a software instrument as expressive as Omnisphere always has been, this is probably quite vital. I think on the whole, Omnisphere 3 is really just going down the same lines as it always had, providing a massively textured and fabulous sounding cinematic synthesizer. It's kind of everything that Native Instruments Contact would really like to be, but Omnisphere does it in a synthesis way. So rather than just being based purely on samples, it has a much larger synthesis engine built into it. It also has this really interesting hardware control where it can mirror the controls of pretty much any synth that you've got going to give you great MIDI control over what's going on the screen. These additional things, the 18 new libraries, the 36 filters, the tweaks to the effects and a few bits on the browser, and of course the MkIII support. These are all good things, but really kind of brings it up to date a bit more than really radicalizes or innovates in particular. But it's still one of the greatest software instruments out there. Do you have any idea what's going on with Liquid Sky? I don't. I find them completely mysterious and yet thoroughly intriguing. Ingar from Liquid Sky gives me a poke every now and again and goes, "Look at this!" And I go, "I have no idea what that is." And he goes, "Ha ha!" and then runs off. And you go, "Oh." So this latest thing is some kind of chaotic envelope. It's an ADSRRRR, which has this chaos knob on it that you turn up and crazy things happen. But I have no idea what happens because there's nothing to tell you what happens. It's in 1U, which is it's kind of cool. 1U is a good space for an envelope, I think, because you can have it that way rather than having it this way. And I quite like that way because then you can feel the run of it, if you know what I mean. So it has ADSNR and then this chaos thing. I don't know, is that good? I don't know. They've done similar things with triggers and signal splitters or something in a similar way. I don't know. It's all a bit mysterious. I mean, they've taken on the whole PPG thing, which is fascinating. And I think there's a rumour they might send me one of those to try out. The PPG module, which has all of the wavetables in from the original PPG wave synthesizer. So that's fascinating. They've also built this modular PPG thing as well. Oh, I don't know. The other day, he sent me a picture of what I think is a phaser. I'm not entirely sure. It could be a pedal. It could be a Eurorack module. I don't really know. But whatever it is, it's probably fantastic. And then he goes off and plants a bunch of trees. I mean, I think he's personally responsible for rejuvenating huge swathes of countryside. It's an artistic collective of fabulous people doing wonderful work that's intense and articulate and offers weird, wonderful worlds of stuff which my meager musical brain struggles to cope with. But I love it, absolutely love it. So keep bringing it on, Liquid Sky, and one day I'll understand what it is you're talking about. Here's a crazy idea. Why not have a multi-effects unit, right, that runs more than one effect at a time? I seem to have this a lot. I've got lots of effects modules that... Do you want a delay? Yeah, I quite like a delay. Would you like a reverb? Yeah, okay. But you have to lose the delay. Oh, really? I can't have both at once? Oh, no, not both at once. You want a delay? Would you like a chorus? Yeah, I can't like a chorus. Does it mean I have to lose the delay? Yeah, you have to lose the delay. I find that quite frustrating. Anyway, there's a company called Ali Modular who feel the same way and have released this module over here that you can't see called Isu's Trifecta, maybe. And the key with that is that it has 3 effects that you can chain together. So you can have a delay and a reverb and a chorus all at once. Who would believed it? All within the same module. You just have different slots, 1, 2, 3 slots. You just dial in from the same bank of effects, stick it in. So a delay into a reverb, or a distortion into a filter, or a filter into a delay, or a delay into some other granular thing. It's all there. I've had this a few days and I've had a little poke around. It is screen based with buttons to navigate around the place, so you go, well, okay, but yeah, you don't tend to fiddle around with which effects are loaded necessarily mid-gig, so it's the sort of thing you could set up. And then you've got 4 knobs with which you can control stuff, different parameters. In fact, there's 2 banks of those, so you actually can control 8 parameters at once. And then it has 8 CV inputs, so you can do some serious modulation with all of that. I'll be doing a full review of it soon, I think, but so far I really quite like the sort of sounds that it's giving me. And it also has an intriguing duck input in order to pull stuff out of the way in a side chain ducking kick drum through the middle kind of fashion, which is, yeah, it's a nice thing to add. It's a bit funny looking, I have to say, on the front panel, but I'm going with it, and I'll see how it goes, and a review will be coming along soon. This is interesting. What is it? Well, it's an interactive gestural analog synthesizer of some kind, something that's inviting you to play with lots of different pathways and changes and lights and glowing things. Fascinating. It's from a company called Whimsical Wraps. Well, of course it is. And it's called the Atrium. And it's all about playful gestures and dynamic systems. It has 5 analog voices that you can push and manipulate and shape individually. Apparently it's all about harmonic energy and timbre manipulation. So you've got some waveforms, you've got some noise, you've got some frequency modulation, you've got some formant filtering that all then tumbles through low pass gates and filters into a delay engine with lots and lots of feedback. The video looks fantastic with these, as I say, these strange lit pathways with which you change and mould and morph from one thing to another. It has a little bit of the Solar 42 about it, I feel, but it's definitely a strange shaped box which invites you to play. Gforce Software have done something a little bit different with something they're calling MAP. This is an odd one for me. My brain is still trying to wrap itself around itself because Gforce Instruments have been doing a whole range of fantastic Oberheim based bits and pieces and other sort of vintage recreations and emulations of stuff. And that has a feel to it and a vibe and a look. And then this is completely different. It's like it's come from a whole different design team. And so in this one we don't get any pretend knobs or bits of fake veneer coming in. It feels sort of flat and modern, disjointed even. I'm not entirely sure how it goes together. Strange bits of use of colour. Trying to follow it around from one place to another. How do I do this and how do I do that? But once you sort of crack through it, you do find that you've essentially got 2 oscillators and a modulation oscillator. You've got filters and EQ, and you've got modulation envelopes, and then a massive modulation central system, and then effects at the end. So you can get there once you scratch your chin a little bit. And I'm not sure that I totally get it yet. I think the oscillators are interesting because they have different wave shaping options, whether that's sort of pulse width modulation or folding. So they're saying that it has this West Coast feel to it, which I suppose it does in that sort of aspect, but it does ultimately play into having a couple of oscillators, which then detune into a filter, which then gets enveloped into some effects, which feels very subtractive to me, ultimately. So it is a regular thing. But I'm finding that the workflow is not particularly intuitive. The manual isn't really telling me anything. So it's the sort of thing I'm going to have to sit down with for a little bit longer. On the other side, the presets coming off it, the sounds coming out, are quite amazing. Quite amazing. Very edgy. It's not a totally clean experience. There's fizz and buzz and crackle and slight overload going on all the time. The effects at the bottom end are superb. There are these wonderful things that just send you off on complete cinematic journeys. It has this sort of grit to it, but this hearthiness, this vibe to it. Something fiery is going on inside. So it's definitely piqued my interest and is going to make me want to sit down and spend more time with it. But my fiddling so far, sounds are impressive, interface less so. It's going to take some time to really understand what's going on. I mean, for instance, there's this little thing where when you open up a preset, some of the knobs have got a range of colour on it, and I have no idea how to edit that or change that. I can allocate things to it so it gains that colour, but I just don't know how to spread it, and the manual's just not telling me, because the manual is one of those things that tells you what things are rather than tells you how to get them done, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think it would benefit from some greater explanation, Gforce Software. Maybe I'm the person to do that. I don't know, but at the moment it's got me scratching my head in several places. But go and try the demo. Go and try out a bunch of the sounds and see what you think, because it does sound quite extraordinary. Korg Collection number 6. This was probably my favourite collection of instruments I've had. I've probably told this story a number of times. I had a cracked copy 100 years ago, which I used quite a lot at a gig, although I had to overclock my laptop in order to get it to run without clicking back in the day. But 100 years ago, when everything was pirates, it was an expensive piece of software for just a handful of old synthesizers, whereas now Korg have padded it out over the years, so it's starting to be a lot better value for money. The latest things they've stuffed in there are the Korg Trinity. I mean, how has that not been in there before? But you've got access to the entire library of Trinity sounds, which is pretty awesome. They've stuck in that PS300, the big fat old modular synth that they've been knocking around with lately and trying to recreate in hardware. They've now got a software version. And they've also added in some piano or other. Did anybody ask for a piano? I'm not sure they did, but hey, we've got one anyway, so that's stuffed in there. But if you roll that around with all the other vintage things, the MS-20s, the Poly6, the mono polys, the Electrides and the drum machines and the M1s and the other bits and pieces that are all stuffed in there, the Prophecy. It's a brilliant collection of instruments that's going to keep you amused for hours, and it has this way of cutting across culture. So you have old analog warm stuff, and then you have the beating heart of digital synthesis and workstations, and that flip from the 80s to the 90s into virtual analog and PCM sample based sounds and wavetables, and moving through all of that through to what we have today. It's a fantastic range of instruments. Korg have got such a history that's fabulously interesting to explore and definitely worthwhile. Behringer keeps on with its battle to make everything as cheap and small and tiny and cheerful as possible. And they've got a couple more cheap, tiny minis coming out about the palm of your hand. One is the CZ1, based on CZ series of phase distortion synthesizers that Casio accidentally made sort of 30-40 years ago and have never been seen of since. But hey, they have quite an interesting quirky sound. There's something about having these 8 waveforms that then collide into each other to give you a certain level of fizz that you can't get through anything else. So they've stuck that into a tiny little box and given you bugger all controls to play with it. So that's fun. The other one they've done is they've taken the great big Oberheim synthesizer and stuck that into a tiny thing. Now this is a little bit more like it. You've got knobs that make sense. You can sculpt stuff in. It has a little sequencer and some effects. But it only has 3 voices. The CZ is the same. Both have 3 voices. You just about get a chord out of it, or get a little bit of overlapping notes. But I mean, they're under 100 quid, what, 80 quid or something? So an extraordinary price for a little synthesizer, which is going to sound great, undoubtedly, even if they are kind of fiddly and fussy to actually use. We've also been hearing, the rumour mill has been going, that they are not going to produce all of the synths they said they're going to produce. The reason that this has come up is because a bunch of people who pre-ordered their VCS3 and Pro 16 from Sweetwater have had their pre-orders cancelled, and they had been told, supposedly, allegedly, by Sweetwater people that they're just not ever going to become available, and Behringer has decided not to do them. Don't know. We don't know if that's for sure. Behringer hasn't said anything about it, so it's just at the moment hearsay and speculation. But they have promised an enormous amount of synthesizers, and I can imagine producing something like a mini Oberheim, a mini UBXA, is relatively simple production line wise, whereas trying to produce a VCS3 Putney with its odd angular shape and large controls and joystick and other bits and pieces is a lot more difficult and costly. So it would make sense that they focus on the stuff, the mass market stuff, because that's the sort of company they are. They're a company that needs to shift millions of units in order to justify the size of their factories and bits and pieces. And so it would make more sense to do the little stuff than the big stuff. But we shall see. We'll see what it is they have to say down the line. A lot of people get excited about Yamaha workstations. I am not one of those people. I appreciate that there's room in people's lives for some kind of workstation that just does absolutely everything in the most uninspiring way possible. And so you have. I mean, Korg, Roland and Yamaha all do this style of workstation that is, I don't know, 16 tracks, sequencing, built in every sort of synthesis type you've ever dreamt of in there, few handful of controls, and everything else just kind of looks like the Korg M1 did back in the 90 something or other. So what am I talking about? Well, there's a new MODX from Yamaha, which is the more affordable version of their bigger montage thing, and the MODX M drags in a bunch more of the sound engines, including the ANX sound engine, which is the big virtual analog from the AN1X. ANX1? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, it's a whole bunch more sounds squeezed into this great big keyboard. I mean, it's the sort of thing that you would run very well at home. It's the perfect... If you just want to have everything and you want to write songs and you're not interested in all this faffing about with cables and mucking around with different boxes that do things, you just want it all there sounding brilliant, then this is the sort of thing for you. It's relatively affordable. It has dozens and dozens of different sound engines and effects and sequencing and recording all built in with a few controls. Nice big screen, tells you what it's doing. Job done. I don't know of anything that's, for me personally, that's less thrilling than that. Talking of thrilling though, Elta Music are going to release a polyphonic POLYVOX. Oh yes, 8 voices they reckon. That's what they're saying. All we've got so far on the website is a cartoon mock-up, you know, a rendering of something or other. It's got lots of buttons, a bit like a Black Corporation synth, and is kind of covered in the sort of hieroglyphs that make us think, yeah, that looks a bit Russian-like, I suspect. A bit Soviet-like, should I say, would be more accurate, I think. So Elta have already done the POLYVOX filter in a box, which is phenomenal. I tested out one of those, and it's a really great dedicated desktop filter for doing that particular role really, really well, rather than having it squirreled away as part of your synthesizer. The POLYVOX 8 brings all of that back into an instrument context where you have these different oscillators and wave shapes you select on buttons. You're then routing it through that very characterful filter before disappearing off into something else. Evidently it has a digital control engine of some kind because there's a screen and you can supposedly save presets, and it's also MkIII compatible, so you should be able to do some seriously MIDI type expression with it. Ooh, very interesting. But there's another thing that I saw on their website that I hadn't spotted before, and that's the TSC12. This is the touch plate interface from the Solar 42 and 42F, pulled out and given to you as a standalone thing. Looks like a Eurorack module. I think it probably is. It takes up quite a bit of HP, of course, because it has all this room for your fingers. And then it has 12 touch plates in total, but it's not just giving out control voltage. It also has an arpeggiator, a sequencer, a quantizer, and other bits and pieces built into it, so it becomes a bit more of an instrument rather than just something to control other things with. So that's really interesting. I wouldn't mind having a go on one of those. I'd love to have a go on the Solar 42 for that matter, if that ever becomes a possibility. The Trident Mark III, emulated by Cherry Audio. No, I'd never heard of this one either. This one I don't think is in Korg's collection of synthesizer, but this is an old Korg synth. It looks... oddly, it looks like, if you took the back off it, right, that bit sticks out the back, it looks like a Behringer synth with that sort of angled step-up bit. Anyway, what it is, apparently, is a little synthesizer plus string machine plus brass machine. It had these 3 different sections, which make it quite interesting. Apparently, at the time, it was a complete flop because it wasn't one thing or another and nobody really wanted it. It's sort of wrong place, wrong time sort of thing. But looking back on it now and seeing what Cherry Audio have done with it, it seems to be like the perfect cinematic 70s synthesizer. You could absolutely build soundtracks on this thing. It just sounds fantastically bad in all the right sort of ways. So yeah, go and try that out. I mean, Cherry Audio does some great work. It's very, very affordable and could take you off on a fun journey into classic 70s cinema. Bastl Instruments has done something fantastic with these boxes. See this box? This is the FX Wizard. It's a crazy thing. It has all sorts of sounds and weirdness going on. It's a lot of fun to play with. It's just incredibly fiddly with these little patch wires and tiny knobs and stuff. But they're a lot of fun to play with, these things. Now, Bastl has decided to squash them down into a Eurorack module, and they look really nice. They look like proper, rather than this is a bit, always felt a bit toy-like, you know, batteries in the back, kind of things hanging out. Am I really having a good time with that? But as a Eurorack module, it suddenly gains this level of professionalism and elegance and interest and stuff. Also, the modulation looks amazing. So these are called CITADEL. It's a single module which has all this modulation at the top, all the knobs at the bottom, same functionality as the FX Wizard 2, the Castle FX Wizard 2, but it is also the wave barred. If you flip the front panel over and change the firmware, you have an entirely other thing, which is this weird, strange sampling, slicing, beatboxing kind of module. So depending on how you feel, you can have weird effects going on, very modulatable and crazy stuff going on, or you can have this sample based slicing, dicing beat generator stuff. Both of them are crazy and exciting and fun and unpredictable and the sort of thing that you just want to play with for hours and hours. But whichever one you decide to buy, you also get the other one at the same time. That's very exciting. So this is called the Bastl Instrument Citadel, and I wonder if there will be other ones, other firmwares along too. So do you feel that you're not quite cool enough for a telepathic instrument orchid? Yeah, I know how you feel. I know how you feel. Well, how about this? This is the HiChord from Pocket Audio. Now I know it's a tiny weeny thing and it's hardly got any keys at all. In fact, what on earth could it possibly do? And it seems to be overwhelmed by this speaker over here, which makes you think, oh, it's going to sound pretty crappy. Yeah, well, all of those things might be true, but built into this are something like over 800 different chords and 6,000 different voicings in order to generate sequences and chains of chords that you can build and loop into songs. It has drum kits built in, it has loops and rhythms and patterns, and you throw in a bunch of chord choices that you can just browse through and find and generate through and choose a different form of synthesis, and it just creates this quite interesting sound. Because the orchid is really all about throwing ideas out there, just being able to slap in a few things, generate chords and add stuff to it and build upon it. And this seems to be very much the same idea, just in a much smaller form. But it looks really smart. It looks quite unique and sort of weirdly enticing. I wonder how easy it is to do stuff. The demo videos are not really selling it for me at the moment, but it's certainly intriguing, and I'm looking at it going, well, I think there's a lot of potential here in this tiny little box. There are a lot of people out there who like tiny little boxes, like the castle thing here. I mean, crazy tiny little boxes that we like to play with, but because they can be relatively affordable, I suppose. But this is made from aluminium. It's not a cheap piece of rubbish. It's certainly put together very well and could generate some really interesting ideas. The Rontgen could be, I don't know quite how to pronounce it, from Tilde Instruments, I think this is. What on earth is it? I love the fact that it's completely unlabelled. It's just a slab of stuff with moving knobs and changes and things and some lights and some blipping and other things. Fascinating. I think it's bigger than you think as you look at it. And it also uses banana jacks rather than mini jack cables or larger cables, which also adds to its size, which makes me think that it's perhaps tailored for people who already have some kind of esoteric modular system going already, because most of us are in Eurorack, and so we're unlikely to want to work in something else. Like, for instance, I've got a liquid foam from Herbs and Stones here, which has banana jacks, and I'm already going, I don't have, how am I going to plug this into anything? I don't know. I've got to get a whole new set of patch cables. Anyway, but some people have these things already, and I think this is the sort of instruments that falls into that quite nicely. I can't really tell you what it does. Can I tell you what it does? Oh, apparently it's analog, has 2 oscillators, wave shapers, shift registers, which is interesting. Shift registers sort of generates a pattern and then shifts on one and adds another note and adds another note, and each time it has this strange way of evolving things because that same pattern is remaining. It's just being moved along and being added to rather than just completely replaced. So shift registers are fascinating things, and this is the sort of box that will just keep you amused for hours. Tubbutec have gone all in on this 1U business. Now, I know they already have. I've got this, which is the Sixquencer from Tubbutec, which is an entire drum machine, a TR-808 style drum machine in a little module. They've taken this idea and they've expanded it to give you proper size buttons, and that's a bloody good idea because this was a flipping nightmare. It's really, really capable, just very, very fiddly to use unless you had it close up. and were able to program it properly. But when it's off over here in a case, it made it quite difficult, I found. So I'm really pleased to see them have developed the same similar idea into a much wider, more accessible, more fingerable module. So this is either 60 HP or 72 HP. If you want to break off the I/O and stick that into a little 3U module, then you can have it shrunk down to 60 HP, but then it gives you 16 buttons and you program your patterns. It's got all the probability you could possibly want, and pattern changing and accents and all the usual things that you'd expect to find in an 808 style drum machine interface. But this could brilliantly sit in your 1U space and provide you with very playable and performable drum programming. Just been sent this interesting new thing from Jake's custom shop, which is this. It's a CV to DMX controller. What's that? Well, it's the sort of thing that allows you to control these sorts of lights, which is very exciting. I've done a little bit of DMX control previously when I used to build performances and events in Norwich Cathedral. I used a lot of these lights all chained together and then was able to control them with DMX, and something that I looked into for a little while quite deeply. Just for a bit, and then I've forgotten it all, of course. But when I saw that he did these sorts of modules, I thought, well, that could be interesting, because you could sort of put these lights behind your rack in a performance or something. It's just it's like a relatively easy and low-tech way to do visuals for your performances. I mean, of course, I'd love to do video mapping and projections and all those sorts of things, which I am also interested in, but don't have the time really. Whereas this is just light, it's just colour. You can throw some modulation in and you can start mixing colours about the place. I think I'm going to give it a go anyway. It's really quite excited about the whole idea. Jake has also got some new modules out, a whole drum selection. I've got the kick drum Pro CV here. I've got a snare drum, which is also a hi-hat, and these are good, compact modules. I've got a clapster, which I think is evidently just a clap, and of course there's the cowbell. Now these are all based on 808 sounds, analog, I believe. I'm going to plug those in and give those a go. I think let's give those a go this Sunday as well as everything else. I think that'll be fun. So I'll have reviews of these coming along as soon as I can, but I desperately want to get into the lighting thing because I think that's the funnest thing in the world. POLYVOX, I'll be using tubes again. This is called the Vamp, which is a great name for a filter. It's a filter, whack a great big tube, which you just know, just by looking at it, that it sounds warmer than it would do otherwise. However, you do think, you want to reach out and twist the tube thinking that's the cutoff, but it's not. The cutoff knob is just over here and it's called Freak. For we don't really know why, but it is nonetheless. So this is a wonderfully tube-driven analog filter that has an integrated VCA and soft and hard clipping options as well. The filter type is a Salem key type, which I can't remember what that's about, but hey, sounds exciting, and the resonance is all about MS-20 style screaming. So it's a sort of thing that's going to scream its way through your rack, which just, I think, would be brilliant. Our friends at Tre Modular have come up with another part of the CS80, and this is the ring modulator. Ring modulation is something I have never gotten to grips with. Every time I come across it, it's like I don't really know what I'm doing or what I'm trying to achieve. Sometimes I make sort of something a bit clangy, but I am up for the idea of getting into ring modulation to find out what it's all about and trying to pull something musical out of it. And what Tre Modular have done is pulled the ring modulation section out of the CS80. Now I have knocking around somewhere here a Rachel from Black Corporation, which is a similar idea. So I'd really like to run those two side by side to see if I can get a measure of what ring modulation is all about. Is it creating bells and clangs, or is there something else? I don't know. People talk about it a lot. It seems to be something which is very prevalent in Eurorack. It's just not something that I've ever made any musical use out of. But this is part of their replicant range, which for which I've also got a replicant filter, which I use all the time, and I fully intend to do a bunch of videos on the Tre Modular stuff, because I've got their envelope and other bits and pieces, their luminal space delay. They're making some great things. I'm completely failed to make videos on them, and I intend to. I will get there, because the filter in particular is weird and yet brilliant all at the same time. Infinite Machinery have produced a dual oscillator, which is slightly unexpected. It's like two oscillators completely together but completely independently. I kind of expected a dual oscillator module to be quite integrated so that you can run them together and detune them, which of course you can do independently, but I kind of expected a little bit more integration. But actually these two are set to be completely individual, which you can then patch to be whatever you like. There is some sync built in, you can hard sync one to the other, but otherwise these are completely independent, free-flowing oscillators. They're analog, they have multiple waveform outputs, and they have this very interesting FM section in the middle with a VCA to allow you to kind of craft and attenuate frequency modulation as it comes in from one to the other. So it could quickly become kind of a complex oscillator as you start feeding one into the other, or you just use them independently and push them around. I mean, it's a good solid oscillator in the first place. They've produced a through zero VCO already, which is standalone by itself, but this is taking two of those and putting them together in a single space, which I find quite intriguing, because it would push you into probably using them together in interesting and creative ways. As I've been talking about my synth picnic idea and ruminating over various charitable possibilities and altruistic wranglings, and whether I should be doing it for free or whether I should be raking in the cash around these sorts of ideas of giving people access to synthesizers, I was directed towards Gloss. Now, Gloss is the Glasgow library of synthesized sound, and it's this wonderful artistic collective, a space, a place where you can go and experience sound and synthesis and gear and recording and workshops and exhibitions and performances and education. It's a place that's just got some wonderful gear in this wonderful space where you can become a member and you can just have access to it. It's there either for free, some things are, or very, very affordable to use and borrow and book space so you can just go and play. It's totally brilliant. It's absolutely everything that I would love to put together in Norwich if I had such a glorious space. And flipping amount of gear that they've got, just amazing. I'm finding the whole thing very, very inspirational, and it's really only just opened up. And it really gets me thinking around what it is I'm trying to achieve with Synth Picnic and Synth East, and all the stuff that I do, which has this underpinning of trying to give to people, whether in explanations, whether in buying decisions, whether in workshops or in exhibitions, or in just providing access to people. I think it's a brilliantly wonderful thing to do, because electronic music and synthesizers is so brilliant for us. This interaction does us good, which has also got me thinking. I'm going to think harder and harder about that, I think. Anyway, I'm hoping to speak to Lewis and Susie, who are the founders of Gloss, at some point. We'll hopefully, if we can, find a way to put together a live stream and just talk about where they came from, what inspired them, how they got to the point that they're at in order to produce this fabulous space, this fabulous place in such a way. And I think that would be really interesting. I'm full of questions and full of thoughts and admiration for what they've done, and so hopefully that will come along soon. It might possibly be this Sunday, but it seems unlikely at this point, but we shall see. Right, so Synth Picnic is all coming in a bit of a blur at the moment, because the next one is coming up on the 8th of November. That is, as I'm making this video, a week on Saturday. So I've been flat out this month trying to sort out Synth East and getting all that together. I haven't put in as much time as I did into Synth Picnic as perhaps I could, but I have a week. And so I'm going to be putting it together over the next week. Synth Picnic is a simple idea where I take over a space in Norwich and I lay out a whole bunch of synthesizers, and you can come and play and enjoy it. Now, the thing that it needs to also be is that it needs to support itself through sales, potentially directing you to websites where you can buy this stuff that you've tried, but also through rentals. So these are the things that I'm going to be trying to achieve on the 8th of November, trying to encourage the idea that you can support the Synth Picnic through any purchases that you make, or by taking the gear away for a month and bringing it back next time for ridiculously affordable prices. That could be a bit of a win. So we have some new synths coming in this month. And this is something that I hope to do over time, is every month, every Synth Picnic, is to change and vary the sort of things that are available so that you get a chance to try out new stuff every time. This time around, I got a whole bunch from Herbs and Stones in. Now, Signal Sounds have very kindly sent this to me, Signal Sounds, up in Glasgow, again, who are kind of like a sponsor. Let's call them a sponsor, shall we? And they've been kind enough to lend me this stuff. So I've got the liquid foam, I've got the solid felt filter, and I've got the mousse, or whatever the heck that is, up there. So these will be at the picnic, and you'll be able to poke them around and try them out. I'll try to get some sound out of them to see what happens. I'll also have these sorts of things, little synths like the Audrey 2 is going to be there. Who knows? I might bring that along. Who knows? The littler ones, the Scrooge from Neutral Labs, bits like that, and the Elmira 2. Those sorts of more noisy, interesting, glitch-filled, analog, crazy machine type things. Those are going to be coming along with me. I'll also be taking the 4Cs I've got here, wavetable oscillator. I'll take the Trifecta along, the Supercar you can come and try out. Any other new modular that I have turning up, I will bring along. I'm also talking to Sequential and Oberheim, talking to Korg, and they are planning on lending me some synths as well. So hopefully, if not at this one, then the next one, I might be able to get a TO5 or Take 5, might be able to get a multi-poly, something along those sorts of lines for people to try out, which would be great. And that's definitely going to be an intention, just to keep moving different synths through. You're not going to be able to rent all of them necessarily, because they will just be on loan from the manufacturer. But hey, you'll be able to try them out, if nothing else. And certainly any other synthesizers that I get given to me, I will certainly be renting out if I can. So this week I'll be doing all the crunching and paperwork to get it onto the website, to show you what it is that's available, so you can book it if you want to take it away, because that's ultimately where we need to get to, is so that all the synths go away and then they come back the next month. That would be pretty brilliant. So that is it. Synth Picnic. Yeah. synthpicnic.com, go to the website, sign up on Facebook for notifications of that sort of thing, and I'll tell you about the next one. The next one after this is the 13th of December. In the same place, Honesty Library up in the Castle Quarter in Norwich, and we'll keep on going with it. Gonna keep on going with it. So that's it. I've got reviews coming up on everything. I'm going to do some videos on the Herbs and Stones stuff once I get my head around some of it. I'll be doing videos on the Trifecta here. I've also got this weird beat tweak, crazy haptic weird knob modulator thing. I'm going to get into that. That sounds completely fascinating. Got the 4Cs. I'm going to do a little bit of playing with that as well, probably through those effects. That sounds like a good idea. So videos on that coming soon. I've still got the pianist to sort out and finish off. I've got this really nice 8-channel mixer from MkIII Modular called the S Mix, which I'm going to run a whole bunch of oscillators through, which I'm then going to control from the pianist. Chord generating machine. I've got lots and lots of DIY to do, plenty of other stuff coming in. Who knows where we're going to be next time? So I hope that I get to see you at the Synth Picnic. As I say, it's a week on Saturday. That would be great. Should be fun, cool, kick back, play with some synths, have a nice time. Come and join us this Sunday for the live stream, which is happening 8 o'clock GMT. We're back to normal time again. That would be great. We'll sit and talk. We might play with these machines. We'll see what I can get plugged in, and we'll talk about Synth Picnics and Synth East. Don't forget to buy your tickets. All the tickets are separate this year. The Friday night, the Expo, the Saturday night, and the DIY stuff. And we can talk about that on Sunday night. That would be great. Love to see you there. Now, please do consider supporting me on Patreon. Please subscribe. Look for notifications for all my YouTube videos. There's tons of stuff on the channel. It's all run just by me. That's all we do. I would very much welcome your support in any way that you would like to give that. There we go. I hope that was helpful, and in the meantime, go and make some tunes.